Hello, you sentient ball of stardust. My name is Casey Davis. I'm a therapist and I'm an author of the book How to Keep House While Drowning, where I talk about ways to make it a little bit easier to take care of yourself when you're overwhelmed, stressed, have mental health issues, physical health issues, or maybe you're just in a hard season of life. Maybe you're looking for a place that you can come and listen to some practical advice. This is a podcast for all of the self-help rejects. We're going to talk about skills for survival and self-kindness. And I'm going to leave the pop psychology at the door. I promise not to tell you to meditate or to journal. We're just going to give you some really insightful conversations with hopefully some practical advice. So I don't believe you need to pick yourself up by the bootstraps. I don't want you to just try harder, and I don't believe that laziness exists. So join me over on Struggle Care, where we can find compassionate solutions that help us function a little bit better.
New on Curiosity Stream. How do you connect a 16th century potato to limitless energy production? Could Napoleon's toothpick have a direct link to a machine that predicts the future? And how can a 1700s conch shell chart a course to humans connecting their brains to the internet? James Burke's visionary series Connections returns for a new generation. Experience all new Connections. With monthly, annual, and bundled plans, find the one that works for you at curiositystream.com.
Stoveleg Media, igniting conversation.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's me, your girl, your host, Elena Grace, and you are listening, obviously, to another episode of I've Been Thinking. Today, I have brought a very special guest on for you, all the way from sunny Los Angeles, my friend, Alex Himes.
Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here. I've been thinking for a very long time about when I would get my opportunity to be on this program, and it's a true pleasure. Thank you for having me on, Elena.
Of course. Have you really?
Of course. Come on. I've been watching your journey since you first began. You forget, you messaged me way back asking about the podcast game, and I was more than thrilled to help you out in any way, shape, or form.
It's true. It's so true. You're an angel like that. Himes and I have known each other, Lord, it was my junior year of college, and you transferred in. And we have just been, we've been friends ever since.
We have a very strange friendship, how you and I came to know each other. You know, random occurrences from me and my impromptu big at Transylvania to us being impromptu dates randomly on our way to Canada, you know?
That's true. That's true. We went to 2 formals together, technically.
Technically, right?
Technically, yeah. Oh, Lord. And I think you're even forgetting the first time I met you, you were just in my dorm room.
Please explain.
You had made friends with my roommate at the time, who was one of my littles, who is not in my life anymore. But you had made friends with her somehow, and she was like, hey, I am bringing like this new guy over to hang out. Like I met him in I don't even know how y'all met. But she was like, I'm bringing this guy over just to hang out. Like, he's new, want to make him feel welcome, that kind of thing. And I was like, okay, whatever. And there you were. Just on the couch in my room.
What's up, Elena? How's it going? Yeah, nice to meet you.
That is how we met. And then it just went from there. Then your big was one of my best friends in college. And you were my family, essentially, at that point.
Let me tell you, I will never forget showing up to Chris Moore's house to go check. What was it? I was going there to go check on something. It wasn't his dog at the time, right? But
yeah, he didn't have the dog then.
We showed up at the house, and we see something in his bed. Or was it? It may have been Dave's bed.
I was going to say, it literally could have been
It could have been Dave's bed, and I'm like, wait a second, who the hell is in Dave's bed, right? Because I just see this bump on there, and I'm thinking to myself, did someone break in? So I'm going into karate tactical mode, right? So I'm slowly approaching the bed, ready to, like, pummel a homeless guy if there's a homeless dude in this bed. And I pull the covers back just ever so slightly, and I see your face, and you are snoring and drooling into the pillow.
God.
And I think I called Dave, and I'm like, hey, there's a homeless person in your bed, and I turn the camera around, and it's just you.
Yes. And I remember you looked at me one day and you were like, Elena, you're a cat. I was like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? I don't know.
You're just always around.
you were like, you're always around and you're always asleep. And I
Yes.
was like, no, I'm a dog. I have a dog's personality. You're like, Elena, you can literally sleep anywhere. I've seen you take a nap during a party before. And that's the
Yes.
thing, is I wasn't passing out. I was literally taking a nap.
I know. No. You were never passing out. That's the thing I learned. I always thought that you were actually passing out at these parties, but come to find out, lo and behold, you just happen to have some old person wizardry where you can fall asleep on sight at any given point.
I really can. And you had to like wave a beer in front of me or turn on like Hips Don't Lie for me to get up.
I think it was Hips Don't Lie, because you immediately, it was like watching the zombies in the Thriller music video,
It
just like
really
come to
is.
life, and you were up, and I'm like, holy crap, it's like I just gave this girl a shot of Red Bull, like directly to the veins, and she just got right up and was on it. Like, oh my God.
Have you seen that TikTok? And it's like me at my wedding, and it's Hips Don't Lie playing, and then it's like and she's dancing, and then it's like my mother-in-law, and she looks like aghast, and my mother, and that's
No,
me.
I haven't,
That's
but I
me.
definitely can see that being you. 100%, that is you.
Yes, except I think assuming I marry Adam, my future mother-in-law would be like, I didn't know she could do that. She'd be impressed.
I'll tell your potential future mother-in-law that those hips apparently do lie.
Oh, Lord. Oh, my gosh. Well, so tell the audience, let's get into it. Tell the audience what it is you do, because that is why you're here in a roundabout way. So tell them what your specialty is.
So, what I do is I'm a sports radio personality. I'm a sports analyst. I'm based out of Los Angeles. I do sports radios and podcast shows, both viewable on YouTube and on streaming services. Here's the plug. Don't at me with Michael and Alex. You know where to find us now. And I also work at Fox Sports as a production assistant, real time, being in the nitty gritty of the events and getting to see things happen right before the public eye does. And it's a true blessing and a pleasure.
It's really awesome that you've had those opportunities, because I mean that's a dream in a lot of ways. And you might not know this about me, but I do really enjoy sports. So
I find that very hard to believe, considering every time we would try and put on sports back at school, you would get pissed.
God, that's not true. It was probably because it was like Duke or like NFL or something. I hate professional football. I hate
And those don't classify as sports?
it. It is a sport, but I just hate
Dun
it.
dun, there it is. There it is.
I just hate it.
Oh, God.
I like tennis, I like baseball, and I like college basketball, and that's it. No,
Ah, well, you're missing out on some of the sporting
I know.
parts.
I know. Those are just the ones that I enjoy watching. But that brings us to, I guess, the main subject. So we want to talk about today, for the listener, we want to talk about mental health in general, like in a kind of general sense. And we're definitely going to talk about our own journeys a little bit and all of that. But I want, I guess, first to hit on this whole mental health movement within sports and with athletes. And because this has been a long time coming, I think. And it's been a topic multiple times with multiple different athletes over the past few years. But it's really come to a head recently with Naomi Osaka telling the French Open to frick off.
Yes.
Right? And I think that this is really awesome. And I think that it has been just a really awesome showcasing of how, like, she's the highest paid woman in sports right now, and she doesn't care about the money, so they can't bully her with the money, right? And I think that is what a lot of sports athletics organizations have done over the years with their athletes, is they say, you have to pay, I'm just here so I won't get fined. They say you have to pay, you have to do it, blah, blah, blah. And she said, I don't care about the money. You can't bully me into doing this, so see you later. And I think it's really cool. But you have a unique take on it that I want to hear about.
So, when we first heard about the Osaka press conference notation, where it was, she basically told the media, hey, look, we are not going to be doing press conferences. We're foregoing that in order to maintain mental health, right? I myself, as someone that's a big advocate for mental health, was all for a statement like that. I am all for the sentiment. Now, at first, I happen to think when she gave the statement, right, she would end up showing up to the media and pulling a Marshawn Lynch, which is, as you stated, I'm just here so I won't get fined, which in and of itself I thought was super impactful at the moment, because it really pointed out the hypocrisy of the NFL, and it also showcased how one of its brightest stars and one of its most random stars could contort the media in such a way where it even turned into such a funny moment that basically became a meme. It glorified itself into becoming a meme, yet it got lost in the undertone of what it was really about, which was about the mental health aspect of things, right? So someone like Osaka, who really does at this point have the leverage in the sport to really get change going, takes a stand. And at first, I'm thinking, maybe it's just easier for this individual to go to these press conferences and just simply say, I'm here so I won't get fined. But they took it a step further. And the French Open, now to their credit as a business, they have all the rights and rules to enforce what they want to do because it's their business, right?
For sure.
But at the end of the day, who makes the business run? It's the athletes. So there has to be a middle ground that gets found. And really the best part of all of this is that it opens the conversation. You're already seeing that the French Open and the tennis organization, if I'm blanking on the acronym right now, made a joint statement to come out and talk about this. Now, as far as how far the statement goes, Elsie Granderson, who's a major sports journalist, works with ESPN and also covers a lot through CNN, made a great point on ESPN Radio, I believe it was, saying that the statement really does fall short. It does fall short as to the points that Osaka is trying to make, as well as almost every other tennis athlete on the planet that hasn't had the ability to state these things in the public eye is backing up, which is there needs to be change. But it's the stepping stones. It's the starting point. You can't get Rome wasn't built in a day, so how can we expect the tennis organization, who's been running their organization the same way for over 100 years, to change slightly? We have to wait and allow those things to happen. And I think Osaka's press conference and what this is doing for sports as a whole, dating back to Kevin Love talking about mental health when he was at the Cavaliers, dating back to all these different players such as Paul George talking about mental health in the bubble with the NBA. They're finally starting to have their voices heard, and these organizations are now just finally taking that information in and understanding we have to change.
Yeah, I mean, you are absolutely right. And I do get that, the French Open, that all of these, they're businesses. And it will definitely take some time to change. There is still this part of me, though, and I love that she is kind of a stepping stone. There's just this part of me that is surprised in some ways, but also in other ways not surprised at all, that it has taken this long, because like you said, Kevin Love, there's all these people. Even Michael Phelps in recent years talked about his history of depression and anxiety. Brandon Marshall spent 13 seasons in the NFL. He came out talking about borderline personality disorder. Let's see. And then there was a 14-year-old Olympian, Amanda Beard, who talked about her struggle with depression, like when she was 14 in the Olympics, and self-harm even. And so, she released her memoir. Sorry, I'm struggling for my words. I think I'm over-caffeinated a little bit. She released her memoir in 2012 called In the Water, They Can't See You Cry. Like, this has been something that people have been trying to talk about for so long. And that's so frustrating that nobody would listen long enough, I guess.
Look, as someone that wasn't on the athletic side but has been truly ingratiated in the media side of things, and me doing my own sports that didn't necessarily require a camera on me or an audience, I can't profess to say I truly understand what it's like being an athlete getting scrutinized by the media. But I can tell you, as a media member who is consistently and thoroughly pissed off by the lack of truly deep questions that showcase knowledge to these athletes during their events, it's super frustrating to see and understanding why athletes are tired. They're getting asked the same questions literally over and over with just slightly different verbiage to justify the act of asking, just so that they can get some type of coaxed answer out of these athletes after they've experienced either such a great loss or such a terrible defeat on a lot of occasion, that it's tiresome to the athlete. It must be also, I can tell you from the media perspective, it's tiresome seeing these guys give lackluster answers when you know that the question you're going to ask is not going to deliver anything other than hurt to the individual.
That's so true. And I think maybe this also, I mean, it definitely does. I know that this definitely highlights some issues with the media in general, where they're not deep diving or so many of them, maybe some are. I think you are working towards being at a point where you can ask deep, like explorative, critical questions, right? That don't just hammer in, hey, you just lost a game or a match or whatever it was, so, and I applaud you for that, because I know that that's something that you want to bring to media, because I know you. But I just can't get I don't know. It's frustrating that journalism has it for so many people come to a point where it's just asking blasé, cliched questions.
Okay, prime example. My buddy Michael and I were at the Clippers practice to ask some questions to players, right? And we're standing in a crowd around Ivanka Zubac, who is the center for the Los Angeles Clippers. And we're listening to, the LA Times, we're listening to CNN, we're listening to a lot of big name media outlets, right? And their representatives there ask these questions to the players. The questions were stuff that were very bland. After last night's matchup, how do you see yourself matching up against this person tonight? X, Y, and Z, stuff like that. As opposed to asking the legitimate questions that a basketball fan would appreciate, such as, hey, for example, I noticed that, Zubac, you were having trouble guarding Howard in the post yesterday. Is there any type of adjustment that you plan on making, like double teams or switches? What plans do you have to cover a guy like him for you personally in the post? Stuff like that, where you can actually get a critical answer out of a player, where you legitimately get inside the mind of the player and the team to see what their plans are to change, as opposed to asking the very bland question, which will lead to the general answer of, we plan on winning tonight.
Yeah.
And we have it on video. We got to watch it, and it was almost boggling to me to think these guys are getting paid prime top dollar to ask questions that a fourth grader could think of in 5 minutes. Why not actually pay someone who knows the game itself to discuss these topics with players? Because then you get a legitimate answer. You get a legitimate defined answer. You get something that people would actually want to read.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I would want to read something more critical like that. I don't care about, what do you think about your matchup against this person last night? Oh, I lost, or I was better than him. You know what I'm saying? It's just,
yes.
It's boring. It's very boring. And that's very disappointing. Do you think that seeing that, I guess from the inside, has had an effect on you personally?
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah?
Oh, God, yes. If we're getting truly into the mental health aspect of things for today's show, especially on a personal note, I've had a very strange journey since leaving Transylvania, leaving you and leaving all of our friends.
Leaving me.
Yeah, I mean, leaving everyone, really.
Yeah.
the concept of spreading your wings didn't really hit me until I came back to Los Angeles and I was looking for full-time work prior to the pandemic, you know.
Right.
And trying to find myself out here made me realize, especially during the pandemic, that's when things really changed. I had to deal with things that had been on my mind. You know, mental health is such an important aspect of all of our lives that we neglect to some degree. And going into the pandemic, I said I wasn't going to allow that to happen anymore. So I quit doing my shows for a year. I stopped doing shows. I took time off, realistically, and I came to terms with a lot. You know, for years I was harboring stuff that I had never actually either looked at and acknowledged as happening, and also accepting and internalizing that was out of my control. I realized, accepted, and have moved on from the fact that I was a victim of sexual abuse from the time I was a 9-year-old kid till I was 18. I've realized that, you know, a lot of the behaviors that I have that make me feel X way are products of these foundations that were built on this house of trauma that I had as a child. You know, I saw this great comparison the other day, and I wrote it down. It said that all of our experiences from early childhood are the foundation that build the house that we live in as adults emotionally. You know, we pile on all of these things that we accrue as children, both the good and the bad, and they help develop our perception of the world. And I'm lucky in that I truly had to credit my father in that he has this ability to really go third person with everything, both emotion and as well as business. And because of that, I was able to, along with the aid of many great people in my life, get to this place where I've accepted the past as the past. I've accepted the things that have occurred to me as the past. I've accepted the things that I have done as the past, and the things that I have done to hurt people as well. And getting to this point has made me realize a lot. You know, going through that experience made me realize that while I was going through it, I shut myself out from the world. You know, I went full ostrich, where I went head in the sand, not really paying attention to the outside world. I lost contact with lots of great friends. I lost friendships because I was going through so much emotionally at the time that, you know, for instance, I haven't talked about this on the show, and I haven't talked about this really outside of just close friends, but one of my closest friends who I lived with, he and our relationship devolved because I was so psychologically strained at the time that I couldn't bear being friends with someone so close with me that I slowly pushed him out to where we're not even friends anymore. And it pains me. And I know that at some point in our lives we'll converge again, you know. But I pushed someone out, and then just as well as doing that, I pushed away all of the friends that we had in common at school, you know. Guys like Malik Jackson, guys like Dave Smith, guys like Chris Moore, all of these people, including my own fraternal family, you know, Dave, Chris, and Kyle Hembry, who's getting married soon. I pushed them out because I was focusing on what was in front of me, and that was the depression. And now that I'm out of that, I am slowly, just ever so slowly, and you know, we discussed this before we got on the show, ever so slowly getting back to getting those connections in my life, you know, the nurturing of those relationships. And I'm very blessed that I've had the opportunity to think about these things. I'm very blessed that the pandemic happened. I know a lot of people are struggling still because of it, but to me, it was an invaluable resource for me to utilize time spent to myself by myself to prevent me from focusing on anything other than the damage that I needed to address.
Wow. Yeah. I will say, first of all, I'm really proud of you. Like, I am really proud of you taking the time to sit back and having the awareness. You're a very self-aware person, and you always have been. But I'm really proud that you took even more steps forward to figure those things out about yourself, to give yourself the time and just everything you needed to go through with all of that and deal with that. That's really tough, and I hate that you had to experience a lot of those things. I would never wish that on you, ever. But I'm really proud of you and where you've come with it too.
You see, the thing that I harped on for years was saying, I wish it didn't happen to me, right? But
Right.
after coming to terms with things, it's almost like, in its own sick, twisted way, and I hope that this doesn't get misconstrued the way I say this, I'm glad those things happened. Solely because I can't imagine a life where they wouldn't. I can't imagine an existence where those things didn't happen. So why be upset about them? They are what made me me. As much
Right.
as it is a terrible thing that no one should have to experience, at the end of the day, they are part of the chapters of the books that line my bookshelf that help create who I am.
Right. Well, it's like you love yourself, so you can't hate the things that made you who you are while still loving yourself. You know what I'm saying?
That's exactly right. I think that's the best way anyone could have put it, and that's a brilliant way of saying it. Yeah, you can't hate what within is loved. Why hate a part of you when you spent so much time investing all of this negative emotion into that aspect of yourself, when if you accept it, when you understand it. And understanding doesn't mean understanding why someone does something.
Right.
Understanding to me means coming to terms with the fact that it has occurred, and it is.
And it can't be undone.
Yes, it just
Yeah.
is what it is, and you move forward. That's understanding to me, is coming to the understanding that it is done. It is a part of you. It is a chapter in your life. It is something that helped develop your perception of the world that you can change.
Right. Yeah. You're absolutely right. And I think that's an awesome perspective to have on it. One of my old friends that is another one that he's not from college, he's from growing up, but I recently reconnected with him, and I was talking to him the other day, and he gave me a really good perspective. Let me see. He said, stop with the idea that things are karma or that you deserve bad things to happen to you. No amount of things that you have previously done serve as justification for bad
None.
things happening to you.
No.
And I mean, it very much applies here, because nothing you could have ever done would have justified that. But then at the same time, kind of in reverse, that thing affected the trajectory of your entire life. And
I can tell you
Yeah.
in the multitudes. Like, for instance, part of the reason why I didn't do organized sports, why I was a karate guy and a band guy, is because I felt safe in those environments. The idea of doing organized sports with other kids and coaches scared me because I didn't think I'd be safe there. That's why I shied away from it. That's why I shied away from being in group settings for so long. That's why to me, felt socially awkward in a lot of situations, when in reality, it was just all up. I'm pointing to my head, but you can't see. It's all up here, being my head, It's funny. I'm at a party a week ago for a good friend's birthday, and don't worry, everyone there was vaccinated. We all wore masks. X, Y,
I
and Z.
trust you.
It's California. I have to state that as the footnote. But we were there, and I'm standing in the back basically, and I'm standing up. I'm one of the taller guys there, and a lot of people are not talking to me, right? And I find myself getting into conversations, and people are a bit standoffish. And then one guy comes over to our group. We're sitting with like 5 people, and points to me and goes, "I like him." Pointing to me. And it was this random black dude that just showed up at this group, right? And I'm looking at this guy dead in the eye, and he sees exactly what I see, right? And we pull off to the side. He leaves the conversation because people were being weird. And we end up getting back to, doing all the goodbyes. And he says to me, "I like you because I could tell just by looking in your eyes you're a straight shooter. You don't play shit." And I'm like, "That's right."
That is true about you.
I'm not an I've been told that I'm an intimidating person, which is to some degree I feel now true after being in enough social situations where that is evident on people who don't know me, right? But the one thing that I've been consistently told is that while I'm intimidating, I'm also someone that gains a lot of respect when I enter the room. And that is something I've now noticed. Now that I'm treating myself better, I'm holding myself to a higher standard, I'm dressing the way that I want to dress, I am physically changing how I look to then change how I mentally feel, and it's playing out in real time. Like, it's mind-boggling to see, you know?
Right.
For years, me looking at myself as this socially awkward dunce that can't really make friends, in turning that into, no, I'm just an intimidating figure. I'm someone that gains a lot of respect, and I have to be able to finesse a conversation where someone feels more comfortable talking to me at times. And that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And I think, I mean, I understand in a lot of ways how that is, because I have felt for a lot of my life like I have some social anxiety. I've felt for a lot of my life like somebody who can't make friends, like that kind of thing. And in college, I definitely came out of my shell. And
Yes, you did.
and through the years, I came more and more out of my shell, you know. And by the time you knew me, I was pretty out there. I was like outside of my shell.
Yeah, you were a social butterfly in college. Like, the person
you.
that I knew is not compared to the person that you're talking about. I mean, don't get me wrong. We've had conversations about social anxieties before, but, you know, aside from that, I wouldn't have known or guessed that you were someone that was socially anxious or conscious of their own presence in a crowd.
Yes, yeah. I mean, to an extent, I still find that I feel that way sometimes. But realizing who I am, and you know, I'm still not finished with that journey of like realizing my full self and finding enlightenment and all that shit. I'll never be finished with that. But realizing, for example, that I'm not the Lily Pulitzer preppy girl that I tried to be, but instead, I mean, when I was graduating from Transy, I wore a t-shirt and workout shorts pretty much every day and walked around in my chacos and didn't wear makeup. And like that felt so much more natural than worrying about waking up 45 minutes early for class and putting on makeup and putting on a Lily dress and like going through all of those moves, because that just wasn't true to who I was. You know?
And why fake what makes you happy? Why put on these fake clothes to put on a front? At the end of the day, you have one person that you're with, and that's the person you sleep with, yourself.
Yeah.
So you might as well embrace who you are in the time that we have. You know, I'm lying in the tub last night looking at the ceiling, thinking to myself, you know, I've been making all these changes in my life to do better, but I really need to start treating myself better. You know, I've been getting back to working out, I've been eating better, but stuff like, you know, quitting nicotine, which is something that I've been trying to do for years as part of my anxiety. That's something that I've been tapering off of and trying to change, making active, better efforts to better myself. And that's what I'm harping on, is that mental health is something that isn't a quick fix. You can go to your therapist and you can get help, but it's something that is like reading a book. It's chapters. There are portions of your life where you will need more help, more outside voices to help give you clarity on what's going on. And that's something that people need to hone in on and understand, is that therapy and mental health isn't a video game. It's not a puzzle. It's not something that you put together and you walk away from easy peasy. It's constant work, and it's life. It's real-time life. And in order to get the best out of yourself from that life, you have to be able to talk about all facets of your life in a way that is healthy.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I realized so much February of last year, and I've shared about this on the podcast before, and I've referenced it a few times too. But February of last year, I just had a complete meltdown. It was right before the pandemic started, complete meltdown. I was an insane person, and I got in this big fight with Adam at his birthday party, and I embarrassed Taylor, and all this stuff, and it was just awful. And I realized that something was really wrong.
You have to give some context. How did that end up becoming?
Well, it ended up because there was a lot that went into it. I was in grad school still at that point. I was applying to jobs that weren't, and internships even, that weren't getting back to me, or that I wasn't getting accepted into. And then my grandfather died in January, and that hit me really hard because I didn't think that was going to happen. Even though I knew that it was, I didn't think it was going to happen. So all these things came together, and then some other things on the relationship side with Adam, just small things that kind of spiraled. So all of this comes together. I have a meltdown, and when I realized, like, oh, this is bad, then I was like, I have to humble myself. I have to talk about this I called my mom and I was like, something's wrong with me. I need to go to the doctor. And so once I was able to talk about it, like with her and with Allison and Taylor a little bit and with Adam, then I was able to come out of it and start growing from it. And that's why I've tried to be vocal about mental health since then, because there were just so many things that I didn't realize. And I want to normalize people, understanding it a little bit more and being able to find help and know that everybody goes through it, right?
See, that's the beauty of our generation. Not to pull an aside real quick, but like the beauty of our generation is that we put such an emphasis on mental health that previous generations, where it was tight-knit, tight to the vest, where you had grandparents that wouldn't tell you about health conditions or things that were going on with them, stuff like that. That's a relic of the past. We all
Absolutely.
recognize we're human and we have to talk about these things, and that's the beauty of what we're doing right now too, is that we're talking openly about our problems. Have you really, if you think about this type of context, what we're doing right here, right now, and you put it in the 1960s, do you really think there were people talking about sexual abuse as well as, dealing with boyfriend troubles on the same radio show on some airwaves? No,
Absolutely
not at all.
not.
And that's the thing that I'm blessed with, and I think we're all blessed with, and I think that will help your relationship, as it sounds like it has. You're realizing in real time that you need to get some, auxiliary help from a third person source that has no insight or detail on your life to get some help. And I commend you for that, because it takes a lot for someone to say, I need help, and then to follow through on the act of actually getting it.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And, for me, something that has been very helpful has been medication. I'm on Lexapro, and I literally cannot imagine my life without it right now. Like, I have tried, I've tested it out. Like, what if I go 2 days without it? No. At this point, I'm still not ready for that. Just because it helps regulate me so much. It helps regulate my emotions in such a way that I can deal with life now, where before it was just constant fight or flight panic mode. And now I can actually get through things.
It's so funny you say that. I have ADHD and I have it bad. To where you didn't get a chance to really see me in college off of my medication because I was a student and I needed it. But
right.
For example sakes, what would normally take me about 30 seconds on a page to read, it would take me 20 minutes without my medication because I wouldn't be able to focus, and I'd have to reread multiple statements to digest the information, right?
Right.
So I go off my medication every so frequently to, get my human elements back, get my body right, and allow the medication to kind of, dilute itself out of my system so that I have an ability to go back on it and actually get the desired results that I want, right?
I feel you, yeah.
And I find that every time I say I'm going to go off my Adderall, I notice one thing after a month, and that's my ability to focus is gone. My confidence level in focusing is gone. And it makes me realize that I do need this medication to help function to some degree at this point in my life. And
right.
As a kid, and I'm sure this is something that you dealt with, and it's something that a lot of people deal with. as a kid, I was diagnosed. I didn't want to be on medication, so my parents would give me the meds. I would hold it in my mouth. I wouldn't swallow it. I would go to school. I'd spit it out. Or I would tell them I took it. I didn't take it. I would do everything in my power. It wasn't until I got to Transylvania University that I said I was going to actually address my ADHD and get some help for it. And lo and behold, I went from a 2.9 student to a 4.0 student, and I ended up averaging a 4.0 for 3 semesters. Like, things make a difference.
Yeah.
And actually addressing a mental health issue. And that's the thing that I want to separate as well, is I never look at these things as a mental health issue, like ADHD, bipolar, all of these disorders that people classify, because it sounds like it's a inefficiency on a human part. I look at it similarly to how adults take vitamins. You hear people taking, omega-3 as well as their fish oils. And to me, taking my Adderall is no different than someone taking their daily multivitamin. And it's something to keep your body at tip-top peak shape and help you do what you need to do.
That's a really awesome way to look at it, I think, because I've described it to Adam before as, this is just another illness. And like, if you had the flu, you would take, hell, I don't know what you take when you have the flu, but if you have a sinus infection, you take an antibiotic, I don't know what you take with the flu. I have no idea.
But that's the thing. This is a daily thing. So it's not taking something to fix a problem. It's taking something to help your body.
Yeah.
It's all about perspective. I've had the pleasure of having some people in my life over the last couple of years who really changed my outlook and perspective on things. So rather than looking at things half full, why not try and spin it into a positive? So you're not, whether you're out there taking medication for depression, ADHD, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia even, these things, you're taking medication not because you have a deficiency. You're taking medication so that, just like every other human on this planet, you're healthy.
Right. No, that is an awesome perspective. I really, really like that. Because it's not something that you have to fix. It's just something that your body doesn't produce quite enough of. Like you said, like omega-3s or vitamin D or whatever.
If you have a deficiency of any kind, you're going to address it. And that's the beauty of medication and what it does.
Right. No, that is an awesome perspective.
We're talking about mental health, and it's all about trying to change the perspective. And at the end of the day, like, if we're going to talk about these things, why not talk about them in the perspective we actually feel most comfortable in? Why not normalize it by discussing it in a dialogue that makes most sense to us, so that others see, oh, this is a perspective that another person has on a medication that they're taking similar to mine.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And, to bring it full circle, I think that is that's why I think it's awesome that our generation is so much more open about it. I think it's awesome that people in the spotlight are sharing about it more often. I think it's awesome that Naomi Osaka has said, hey, ever since 2018, I've suffered from anxiety and depression, and this is just not something I can handle. But then it's also really cool when, like, Venus Williams yesterday in her press conference at the French Open was like, listen, I sit in this seat and you all can say whatever you want to me or about me when you write about me. I know that you'll never hold a candle to the way that I can play tennis. And that helps me get through it. But everybody deals with things differently. And that was really important, that she said, this is how I get through it, but not everybody can do that. Everybody deals with it differently. Yeah, so just the way we're talking about things now, much improved, and also just really awesome to see it on such a grand scale.
In order to make change with how society views mental behavior, we have to actually have an open dialogue in a way that makes it sound as if it's not a deficiency, it's not an issue, it's something to address. Issues are political, issues are minute things that we deal with throughout the day. An issue is having an overpaid tax bill or not paying your taxes on time. It's not mental health. Mental health is never the issue. Mental health is something that we all deal with. Some of us just happen to take medications to help alleviate that issue, just as others take medication to alleviate their body pain after going and playing 48 minutes on a basketball court every night. We're all similar. We just happen to be able to pick apart our differences much quicker than we are to recognize the similarities.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think that's a mic drop ending, my friend. I think that was really good. Yeah, it's all these small little things that we just want to pick apart to say, like, oh, I don't need that, so I'm better than you,
I do want to leave you with this, because
Yes.
this is what I was talking about the other day. So I wrote in my journal about, the house analogy, right? Mm-hmm. And I got to this point where I was kind of looking at it more in depth. Our experiences are the foundation for our personalities. The neuroses, the faults, the guilt, the love, we are all developed like a house. Our early life builds the foundation for what we develop and evolve as people in relation to society and ourselves. As such, addressing the trauma and the pain, those are, in a sense, a form of doing updates and remodels. You're changing the interior and the exterior. By addressing and accepting the change within, that changes your perception, and in turn it changes how you look on the outside, both emotionally and physically, because you feel better, you're dressing better, you're also exuding a much more relaxed mindset. And at this point, that's what we're all doing. We're all doing the interior modeling and remodeling at the age of 25. I mean, hell, even in your teenage years, when that foundation is still being picked, whether it's going to be steel, wood, rod, whatever it may be, you're still picking the foundation.
Yeah.
And it's all about finding how to remodel successfully, how to remodel the interior to where you feel best so that the exterior is shown to the rest of the world.
You're absolutely right, my friend. That's really beautiful. And it's about finding the right presentation, I guess, but like the truest presentation of yourself,
Yes.
because that is when you're built the strongest. When you're presenting your truest self, that's when your foundation is the strongest.
Why do we love celebrities? Because some people are in movies that we love, others are because we love who they are. John Krasinski, everyone loves frickin' John Krasinski.
Yeah.
Because we also love the man that is John Krasinski.
Yes,
people
we
love
do.
Chris Evans. They love the man that is Chris Evans because of who he is. People love Kevin Love, maybe not always as a basketball player, but for sure as hell, they love him as a man because he steps up for mental health, just as DeMar DeRozan, just as Michael Phelps, as all the guys that we've stated. We
Yeah.
love people because they're most authentically to themselves, yet we are built in a society where we are constantly showing off the most inauthentic version of ourselves so that other people feel some type of way about it, whether it's jealous, whether it's happy, whether it's feeling connected. Not everyone gets to experience the 1% lifestyle, so we have to be able to understand that 1% isn't authentic. 1% is completely inauthentic, so why not live an authentic life that makes you happy?
Hallelujah.
That's a mic drop.
That is a mic drop. You've had 3. Wow.
I'll take that. That's a win for me. Better than how the Celtics looked against the Nets the other night, so that's a step up.
You said, what do you think the Celtics will do? Everyone was like, nothing.
Yep, and look what ended up happening. We got a flat donut.
A flat donut. Hilarious. Well, thank you so much, my friend, for coming on and for sharing so much of yourself with me and my listeners. I really appreciate that you trust me this much to share these parts of yourself with me.
Look, how can I be my most authentic self if I can't be willing to share all the parts that make me me, to not just you, but to anyone? I mean, it's a
You're
true honor
absolutely
to
right.
It's a true honor to be here, and I'm glad that your listeners have the opportunity to have a show where they can get such great divine, differences, talking about books, from talking about life to talking about real true experience with one another. It's something that we need to hear, and if there's one thing I can leave everyone with, it's that you're not alone. We are all dealing with mental health. We are all dealing with our own stuff every day, but it's about figuring out how to deal with it in the healthiest of manners. You know, we all go through our period of smoking, drinking, getting wild, you know, drunken benders, whatever it may be. But it's finding that clarity after going wild, or even avoiding the going wild portion, so that you find some type of peace.
Yeah.
And I hope and pray that everyone that's listening gets something out of this episode and understands that there is a divine individual peace within every one of us. We just have to learn to get there.
Absolutely. That's really beautiful. Do you want to share any resources with the listener that maybe have helped you? And I'll link them if you have any in the show notes for this episode.
Sure. You know, for me, the biggest help that I can honestly claim, a lot of my experiences that I've come to terms with as of late, I did without the help of a psychologist. You know, both, that's a net positive and a net negative, depending upon how you view it. But for me, my biggest resource, to be quite frank, was actually Law and Order SVU. I've been an avid fan since I was a kid, and a way that I got to learn how to deal and cope with a lot of these things were through the mechanisms shown through guys like B.D. Wong, and also, you know, who plays Olivia Benson, Mariska Hargitay on the show. I've learned how to deal with these things and how to address them by simply watching them talk to children, because that's the easiest form to understand things, seeing things through a child's eyes. And so if there's any resource I can give, you know, upon, you know, the suicide hotline, beyond the looking at your reference pages for getting mental health needed if needed, it is watch that show, because that'll help you as the viewer if you've experienced something, anything similar to sexual assault, abuse, anything like that, such as trauma. You will gain some type of insight as to how to deal with and how it is dealt with.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I love
it. And if you guys also want to check out our work, be more than welcome. I'm Hymes LA everywhere, HYMES LA on all social media. Our shows are also on YouTube at Don't At Me with Alex and Michael. You can check us out there. We talk about mental health a lot on our show, just as sports and culture and everything else. So, yeah, feel free to tune in.
Perfect. That was going to be my next question. But yeah, I was just going to say, I love that you've found, you know, you've found peace and help in different places, you know, so that's really, really cool that you've been able to do that.
Oh, and Bruce Lee too, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, 100%. Listening to how he views life is such a deep philosophical bonus to me, because as I am in the martial arts world, I am a black belt. I still find that listening to a man talk about how life itself is like water, and we are constantly just trying to find help in these tumultuous waves. We get stuck in the rip curls of life, the issues that we deal with in the moment, to the greater scheme. We get stuck in the tsunami, which is the greater issues in our lives. Yet you still manage to find helping hands. You find a surfboard, you find a lifeboat. Somewhere along the way, someone helps you, and that's what it's about. We're all trying to offer that helping hand into the boat, the life raft, whatever it may be.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's really good. And for any new listeners, or if you don't follow me already, make sure that you subscribe wherever you listen to this podcast. Make sure you follow on Instagram at I've Been Thinking Pod, or on Facebook, I've Been Thinking with Elena Grace. That's where Instagram is really where we get most of the updates on the pod. And yeah, thank you all for tuning in. I really hope that you have gotten something good from Hymes. Make sure that you go check out his projects and follow him too, because he is really awesome.
Thank you again for having me, Elena.
Of course. Thank you so much. And I will talk at y'all next week. Bye.
Hello, you sentient ball of stardust. My name is Casey Davis. I'm a therapist, and I'm an author of the book How to Keep House While Drowning, where I talk about ways to make it a little bit easier to take care of yourself when you're overwhelmed, stressed, have mental health issues, physical health issues, or maybe you're just in a hard season of life. Maybe you're looking for a place that you can come and listen to some practical advice. This is a podcast for all of the self-help rejects. We're going to talk about skills for survival and self-kindness. And I'm going to leave the pop psychology at the door. I promise not to tell you to meditate or to journal. We're just going to give you some really insightful conversations with hopefully some practical advice. So I don't believe you need to pick yourself up by the bootstraps. I don't want you to just try harder, and I don't believe that laziness exists. So join me over on Struggle Care, where we can find compassionate solutions that help us function a little bit better.
New on Curiosity Stream,
I'm James Burke. I'm going to take you on a journey through time.
James Burke's visionary series returns, reimagined for our time.
Now, this is all uncharted territory.
The Washington Post hails Burke as one of the most intriguing minds in the Western world. The New York Times raves he careens from one great moment in history to another.
Where do we want to go from here?
Experience all new connections.
So what's the next connection?
With monthly, annual, and bundled plans, find the one that works for you at CuriosityStream.com.